heard about My Options. It was in the clinical newsletter recently, if you read that. There's a lot of talk about it, but this is really just a very general overview to answer any questions. There are some practices in our region that will get rolled out as specific My Options practices in the next few months, and if you are one of those, then we will be coming around and doing a little bit more of an in-depth talk to you anyway, but this is just to answer any questions and throw up anything that you want to talk about. So, the agenda. Why do we need it, what it is, some of the scenarios, what to say to people and marketing and things like that, and any questions. What I thought we would do is I'll go through all of this and then at the end we can answer any questions, because it's really easy to go off on a bit of a tangent if you're not careful, if you ask as we go through. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it, how we can offer, how it fits in with what we're currently doing, and how we can support you, and how the whole team is going to work together to get this up and running. So, for most of us, this is our current situation. We have NHS treatment options for patients, and we have private. And most of us, because we're not all fully private, most of us do an NHS, and people come in and pick and choose what they want to do privately. There's quite a disparity between the two, as I'm sure we all know. The band 3 is, what, £269 or something now. Some of the private crowns, for example, are going at £600, and if people can't do the private, then often they're left with no option. For example, if you get your patient that comes in with their front crown that they just don't like the colour of, but clinically it's absolutely fine, it's doing the work of a crown, so you can't justify replacing it on the NHS because that's just about what people need, not what people want, then their only other option is a full private, and for some people that's just not possible and they're just left. So, the middle ground, which is currently taken up slightly by Access My Dentist, is where My Options will go in. There's a little bit of confusion, I think, about Access My Dentist. When that was brought in, it was done to model on the NHS. So My Options is not just Access My Dentist with a new name. It is a different option altogether, but if you're already doing Access My Dentist, it will make a bit of sense, but you don't kind of confuse the two, because My Options is much more of in the middle and not just trying to model on the NHS. But this is where it fits in. So your patient that comes in with your crown, you can't justify replacing it on the NHS because they don't really need it. They can't afford to pay £600. The idea is there'll be something around the £300, £350 mark of a zirconia crown type of thing for them to have. So the key message is getting dental care that you have dreamed of at a price you can afford, or basically affordable private, for people where I think there's a big gap in the market. The aims that have been laid out to us are that the pricing will be transparent, so that when you do this and when you roll it out on R4, you will have codes with prices that you can tell people, so it's not a bit of a kind of like, well, it's roughly about this or what have you. It'll be exactly the same as it is with NHS. Convenient appointments, I'm going to come back to that in a minute because it all depends on how your practice is currently set up, but the aim is sort of early mornings, not too early, evenings, weekends, and fitting around what you're currently working at if you're doing your NHS. There are flexible payment options. I haven't added that in here because some of that's still being worked on a little bit, but you know, Medenta, do you know the Medenta finance packages? It'll be sort of similar to that, I think it's just being changed very slightly. And it offers a full range of treatments, so everything, all the way through from routine stuff all the way through to your cosmetic things. This is just an example of how they compare. When we were doing the training day, there was a few things that this threw up that weren't quite right, and I don't think this is the exact end copy that we're going to end up with, but it just gives you an opportunity to show your patients what sort of marketing that we'll be able to get to give people. So priority appointments and convenient times and transparent. Longer appointments is a bit of a contentious issue with people because you can't say to the patient you're on the NHS, you have to have a short appointment. So that I think is going to get tweaked, isn't it, between the wording of that. Clinically necessary on the NHS versus whatever you basically want on My Options, and the regularly seeing your own dentist, ideally. And this is a kind of an idea of a fee scale again. I think it's going to be tweaked a little bit. But you're looking at £32 for a checkup versus the £22.70. Private pricing is different wherever you go. I know in Woodbridge, if you went to the private dentist up the road, that will cost you £95 to see them for a checkup. So that's all dependent on where you are and what your areas are like. But you can see sort of your emergencies. If somebody comes in and you've got an emergency, it's £50. what you do on that emergency is up to you. If it's something really simple and you can do it and it's not going to take you very long, then £50 is your emergency fee. But if you're going to have to do a lot more, then there may be options and adding in additional fees for the treatment that you do. But you can see like your crown is 370 as opposed to 500. So you can see where it all slots in. The dentures are covered sort of like a denture excellence, basically classic or elite. I'll come back to that in a minute. So that's a bit of an idea of how that's going to work. So we're going to have 7 labs to work with. These are the labs. I don't know if any of you know them or you use them already, and if you don't, then these are the labs that have agreed to work with My Options, and these are highlighted the cheapest options out of all the labs on offer. So it's entirely up to you which lab you use. You can try some. If you don't like them and they're not giving us the service that we want, then we can swap them. They will be taken off that list, and if you've got labs that you already work with that you think would work really well for this, you can contact people and they can add them on with a bit of research and all the rest of it. But this is essentially the list that they've come up with. So as long as you're using these people and you ticking that it's a My Options on your lab ticket, you know how on your lab tickets you get your NHS private, you get your independent. It's basically independent when you tick it on the lab ticket.
Just on lab pricing. Just before everyone goes, I know a friend called Bob who's got a lab down the road. Could we use him? There's some criteria that has to be met before we can add a lab to that. First of all, obviously they have to be DAMAS, which is number 1. But number 2, they have to be able to deal with the quantity that potentially could come from My Options. So if it's only a 1 or 2 man band, the reality is that it wouldn't get added to the list. There has to be someone that could almost deal with a national account as well as an independent account. So it's the volume as well. So just bear that in mind if you've got a lab in mind that you may want to put forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be like Adepts and stuff like that. Just aren't big enough, really. It's a bit of a kind of see how it goes, because the problem is that it's like when PDS started with Denture of Excellence, they were really good, and then they got lots and lots of volume and they kind of went down a bit, and then they had to pick it up a bit. So maybe that some of that will happen, but essentially these are the labs that you'd be able to use. The ClearCorrect, which I'm going to touch on if anybody's interested in doing it. So at the moment, for example, if you do Invisalign, that would be your private option, and then the ClearCorrect is what you can do as a My Options option. So it's essentially, people who don't know what ClearCorrect is similar to Invisalign. It's clear aligners that move your teeth, but the price point is a lot lower. For the patients at the moment, they could be paying £3,500 for Invisalign, something like that, and this is going to come in at £1,990, I think, and the lab bills are going to go from £1,000 for Invisalign to about £500 for this one, from our point of view. On another note entirely, if anybody's interested in going on this course, then I can tell you more about it in a minute, okay? Because if you want to go on it, this is a course that is not only just alignment, it's also whitening and bonding. Yeah, so it's the whole thing. So it's a 2-day course, which is what it is, but I can talk to you a bit more about that in a minute if you want. So, for example, then, so your orthodontics, NHS referral or your NHS ortho, My Options, you could say you could do ClearCorrect. Invisalign would be your private options, and for dentures, you've got your NHS. Your My Options would be the equivalent of your classic Denture of Excellence if you're doing Denture of Excellence, and your private would be your premium or elite Denture of Excellence. Crowns are going to be NHS. Crowns are a little bit trickier, I think. My Options would be maybe a zirconia, and then your private could be a really good zirconia or an EMAX or something like that. The plan is, I don't know if any of you do Denture of Excellence. Yeah, you know the box you get with the dentures. For crowns, we're going to have something similar. There'll be a little setup that will show the difference, because otherwise trying to explain it to a patient, they're just not going to know what we're talking about. So you can say this is what you get, and this is what you get, and this is what you get. So it'll make life a lot easier, I think, for showing differences to people. So these are the people, so see if you're on a list. These are the people that this is being rolled out to in June, so Woodbridge, and Bury in August. So we will be up and running in a proper way by the time these dates come round. There will be the marketing will be done, we will have come in and talked to you all about it, all the codes will be on R4 and everything will be up and running. But we need to just make sure we're all in place to hit that, and then obviously these guys will come out in August.
Sorry, just one moment. Just the rollout. So we were approached as ADMs to say who we thought would be the right practices to do the initial rollout. So the reason we selected these particular practices was a combination of things. It was either A, around the opportunity that was already there. It could be on factors like the books were already closed, they may already be doing AAD. lots of different factors that make towards that. What we will say is, though, is the list isn't exclusive. We can add people onto that list, we can move people off that list if we feel it's just not ready when we get round to that time. So that's the first part of the rollout. The second part of that is that on the 3rd of June there'll be reception training for every single person, every single receptionist in those teams. So they'll get a full training session around my options, so that feel confident as clinicians that when you're sitting there, that the team that will be booking those appointments will have the right training as well. And the third part of that is we have 3 My Option champions that will be going around doing lunch and learns in these practices as well. So what they'll do is they'll turn up the practice, they'll spend a good 2 or 3 hours in the practice, they'll spend an hour either side of the reception team, and they'll spend an hour with the lunch with you guys as well, just going through everything, so that when we get ready to launch, there's already been 3 touch points where everything should be done and landed. So it's not like, do you know what, My Options is tomorrow, good luck, read a leaflet, let's see how it goes. It's been well planned and well organised out, so that when it does get live, everybody is on board with it and everybody understands
That's
it.
what they're doing. So this is the colour scheme, goes well with everything else. So this is what will get us, all the marketing and everything else will be in place for people. So the next question is how it works in your practice. Now, everyone is very aware that this will work differently in different practices, because it depends on, do you have spare surgeries, do you have full surgeries, and everyone's got a big NHS commitment and all that sort of thing. So if you are new, so the new patients can phone us out and need an appointment, and you can say, well, I'm not taking on NHS, but we can see you as a My Options patient. This is the sort of place where you maybe would do an evening or a Saturday or something like that. And they can come in and they will get given all these, the checkup is this much, there's fixed prices and blah, blah, blah. Then they can have the option of staying on an NHS waiting list and not taking anything up, or coming on as a My Options. When they come in as a My Options patient, the dentist sees them as a My Options patient, they get the My Options and private options. Okay, so you can still talk to them about what's available to them. They can't kind of drop back down to being an NHS patient if you're not taking on NHS. It's not a kind of like backdoor into becoming an NHS. They have to kind of stay on that. Your normal patients, as it were, that you're seeing all the time at the moment, how that would work is you get them in, they're an NHS patient, and when you're talking through your options with them, you just say you can now have this in the NHS as a My Options or as a private. So there's a bit more chat maybe that we need to kind of factor in how we're going to do that, because whether that's going to take 5 more minutes per appointment, or whether we can get it down to a way where you can get that information across, but they'll have to be given all of those options. If you're taking in, or you are taking on NHS patients, then it becomes a case of, look, this is your next available NHS appointment, or we could see you sooner if we do it through the My Options route. And then people have just got the choice about what they want to do. The third situation, especially in our area, as you all know, we're really lacking in dentists. We do have a lot of spare surgeries. So one other option is that we get people in who come in to do just My Options because they don't have maybe a performer number and they can't do the NHS. So they're going to come in and they will just take up some of these people basically and offer them something which is at the moment not available to them at all. So there's a few issues around how that's going to work, and that comes down to a practice basis about how we get somebody coming in just to do My Options when everyone else is doing their NHS. A big thing I'm going to plug while somebody in the room is, in order for all this to work, if we're going to bring in people, say, to do My Options and they are not on an NHS performer number, they may well need mentoring, and we really need to boost the number of mentors. I think I'm preachers converted a little bit here because I bang on about this all the time, but if you know anybody that might want to be do a mentoring course, we really need mentors, because we can end up, if we're not careful, with empty rooms, a mentee who's raring to go and nobody to mentor, and without the bits of the jigsaw puzzle coming together, none of this is going to really work. Any questions?